Hi everyone，
大家好啊，
大家好啊
歡迎嚟到我哋今晚嘅 webinar。
，Welcome to our webinar.
今日咧會同大家分享所有你需要知道關於 UX 嘅嘢嘅。
Today we'll talk about everything about user experience in Hong Kong.
咁無論你係從來冇聽過 UX 啊，或者依家係一位學生，或者係另外一個 industry 想更加了解 UX 嘅嘢，今日都會同大家詳盡解答嘅。
Oh, also, thank you for filling out our form.
如果大家有咩問題嘅話咧，記得同我哋 chat room 度問問題啊。
I am Anubhav Vaij. I'm the head of UX at Xccelerate.
Oh, the sound is too
One
soft.
second, let me fix those.
Sorry，等我哋一陣。Is this better?
Is this better? Let us know in the chat.
It's too big. Wait. Okay, I think this is all right.
Are we good to go?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm Anubhav. I'm the head of UX at Xccelerate.
And I'm Janice. I'm the UX UI designer at Xccelerate. Xccelerate is a place where you can learn new skills in tech and to prepare yourself for exciting careers like in software engineering, in data science, and in UX.
Too long.
Push it back a little bit. Make it here. Perfect. I think that's better. Okay. And today's webinar will be conducted in English. So if you've got any questions, tell us in the chat room. 如果要問中文嘅話，都冇問題嘅。So Anubhav, today we're talking about things in UX. What are we talking about?
We'll be covering 8 questions, 8 topics, which will be covering everything about UX that probably you want to know. If you want anything, if we think that we missed out anything, let us know in the chat. The main topic that we cover is what is UX. The next, we go to a few examples of good and bad UX. The skills that are required to become a UX designer, a responsibility of a UX designer, the tools that UX designers use daily, the different roles of a UX designer in the company, especially in Hong Kong. Apply UX to your business and where you can learn user experience from.
Also, let us know what you think UX is. How do you define it? Tell us in the chat room.
So what is UX?
UX means user experience, right? But what does it actually mean?
For me, UX is a process of designing a good product. You may ask, what is a good product? Good product for me is something that is functioning, something which is very easy to understand by a user. In fact, any user, something that is easy to use, something that is desirable and durable. The application of human psychology to any business can also be termed as user experience. In a way, user experience for me is a bridge between business and a user.
Interesting. So, what is bad and good UX? I'm sure there are daily examples that we've all seen. This classic example of the door. So I'm sure everyone has came across that. Whether it's push or pull, you're just so confused with it. And the person behind you be like, wait, what? Do you know how to use the door? But don't worry, it's not your fault. When it comes to a design like this, if you don't know how to use it, that's always the designer's fault. In fact, if you and other people all have the same problem, that just means it's a really bad door. And a door like this is coined as the Norman door, which is named after Don Norman. He's the founding member of Nelson Norman Group, which is a UX consulting firm. That just means a bad door. We don't want that. So what is a good design door? It should not have any labels. So when it's come to push, it should just be a plate without the handle, because when there is a handle, it just signals you that you have to do something with your hand. And when it comes to good design, good UX design, it should be almost invisible because you will not even realize that you have already interacted with it. So next time when you push or pull a door, notice that whether there's a sign, whether you struggle with it. And next, there's this other example. Let us know which one do you think is a good and bad example, and why is that? and above. Why do you think which one is good and bad?
Oh, it's very, very obvious. Look at the one on the left. I would take,
Me too.
I don't know how many minutes to just figure out which button I'm supposed to click.
I agree. It's just way too many things. You don't know which button to really press. Whereas the right one, it's very clear. The number itself is within the button. And then what I really like about it is that when it comes to getting into the lift, apart from pressing the closing door button, which is everyone in Hong Kong loves that. By the way, that doesn't make the door close sooner. It's getting out of the lift. So it's always trying to find where the lobby is, where the ground floor is. For this one on the right-hand side, you can see for number 0, which is lobby, it's also with a green circle on the outside. So that just means exit. And after showing you some like real life examples, let's see the definition of what really good UX means. It just means that it's something that's so invisible, you wouldn't even notice. And bad design is just always something that everyone would notice because it's just screaming out inadequacy. And next, we're going to show you some website design. Annabelle, what do you think? Is this good or bad? And then why is it good or bad?
This looks hectic. This is visually hectic. Oh my God, I don't know where to look at.
I know, right? Yeah, so it's this one, again, it's just screaming so many different information. There's too many colors. There's no clear visual hierarchy. You don't know what's the most important. What does this website actually want you to do? Which picture does it want you to click into? And let's see the next one. What about this one? What do you think?
So much easier. That looked so cluttered and difficult to navigate. This, I know exactly what I want to do.
Oh, that's true. It's just so clear. It's just one search button. That's why I guess Google kind of coins like being the search king, because you always try to find out your most important information. It's very clear. It's very minimalistic. It's also just lots of space. You can breathe. So, and then most importantly, what you need to really know about design is that less is more. I'm sure you heard of it. Less, but you have to be better as well. So after distinguishing some of the good and bad UX, we're going to talk about some of the skills that you need to become a good UX designer. So first thing first, you need to have empathy. What that means is that you have to have the ability to understand and share the feelings of other people. Being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, you'll be able to truly understand their problems. And when you can understand their problems better, you'll be able to find a solution for them. And also being a good listener is very important. And secondly is communication skills, be it visually, orally, or written. 65% of the population is all visually oriented learner. So they are always seeing how images would work or like pictures, posters. That's why being a great UX designer, you have also got to have great UI design skills. So how to incorporate images, icons, and different mock-ups and interactive prototypes to really communicate your design. And oral presentation is very important as well. Especially in Hong Kong, it's a very new field that you need to be able to communicate why UX design is important. And also written is very important as well because you need to document your ideas, your analysis. And thirdly, it's collaboration. When you're a designer, you will always have to work with other people, be it a developer, your customers, your business stakeholders, your C-level executives. You really have to work with them together. Unless you're a person who knows how to code, how to design, manage your own projects, otherwise you always have to work with someone else. And also, you have to keep an open mind. What does that mean? Always be questioning how can you do things better? What other ways you can approach the problem? How can you get your creative juice to problem solve? And being a UX designer, you always have to be learning something new because the industry keeps changing. So you have to learn what are the latest tools out there, who are the latest, coolest YouTubers out there, what are some of the latest design trends out there to make sure you're up in the market.
You're absolutely correct. I remember I can totally relate to all of these things. Collaboration. I remember every single time that I've given an interview, people have me asking me, can you please give another round of interview with a product manager, and then the next round with the developer, because in the company they want you to collaborate with every single stakeholder and see how you gel with all these different people.
That is so true.
Let's go to the next topic, which is, what are the responsibilities of a UX designer? Well, research and analysis, you guys must have heard. You have to be so open, conduct user research, understand what people are doing, analyze all the data you've got, and then you have to present it in a form which people can understand, your stakeholders, the product designers, the CEOs of the company, and you model them, create different maps for them to understand, show how your data is translating into different ideas and what people want, and then come up with different ideation methods. The ideation methods are different designs in the form of features, in the form of wireframes. Test them out, continuously test them out, because without testing, you can't get anything. Once you're ready with the final prototype, then you present it to the different stakeholders again, then hand it over to the developers for them to develop, hand it over to manufacturers for them to work on it. And then when the product is launched, you again go back to the first process and do the research all over again, just to make sure that every single thing is correct, every single thing is in place, so that your product is always the best product.
So Anubhav, does that mean once you pass on the product, that's the end of the UX design
No.
nerd's job? Is it over?
No, it's absolutely not that. So as people say, a design job is never over. If you worked with a designer, you must have noticed that they keep redesigning the same thing again and again and again, trying to make it better. UX designer's job is exactly the same. They keep making the whole process better and better to get the perfect product out.
I see. And which one do you think is the most important out of all of this?
Understanding the user is the most important for me, because it gives you exactly the knowledge that people want. Because if you don't understand and you try creating and producing something that people are looking for, not looking for, your product is bound to fail. There'll be a lot of complaints. There'll be a lot of anxiety amongst people. And you never know. The business goes downhill from there.
Yeah. That's why empathy is one of the most important skills that you need to become a great UX designer. So next, we've talked about what are the skills to be a UX designer, kind of what do they do day to day. So what are the tools that UX designers actually use to enable them to become an even better one? So if you're already in the industry, I'm sure you have interacted with one of these three. So these are user interface design tools. From left to right, it's Figma, Adobe XD, and Sketch. So what are they? They are the ones where you can create beautiful wireframes. From some of them, you can also do prototypes and to present your ideas. And even you can do some vector graphics drawings. Figma is a free web browser-based tool. It's one of the latest one that's hottest in the market right now. It allows real-time collaboration and gives you the ability to prototype without learning how to code. How amazing is that for designers? I mean, I don't know how to code, so it's a great tool for me. Whereas XD, Adobe XD, originally is not created for user interface designers, but for illustrator out there, graphic designers out there, I'm sure you have a very strong kind of relationship with Adobe, with Photoshop and all that. So XD has really been improving for the past few years. They've been constantly releasing new features and catching up with the rest. Whereas last is Sketch. They have been in the industry for the longest, but bear in mind, they're only compatible with Mac computers. So if you're Windows users, not necessarily the best for you, but still a very, very powerful tool. You can use it with different type of plugins. And next is prototyping tools. You might ask, what is prototyping? So prototype, it's a phase where you make the product so close to the final product that you can keep testing out to iterate your ideas to make sure that it's closest to your design and it's easy for other people to understand what you're trying to present. So here we've got Envision and Framer. So Envision, it's a very popular tool. It's super, super easy to use. When I first started out, as a UX designer, I use InVision as well. And whereas Framer, which is the blue logo, it started off as a code-based tool for creating prototypes. And now they again keep reiterating it. And now Framer X, which is also termed as a UI design tool, it has the ability again for no code prototype. Also, let us know what tools do you use and then which one is your favorite. When it comes to getting new ideas or like what else is hot in the market, I myself use Dribbble and Behance. Dribbble is a great platform for getting latest inspiration. It's a lot more focused on the UI elements, so you see a lot of really pretty graphics, animations. It's a quick snippet to see what's latest in the market right now. You probably will see a lot of things like neumorphism, flat design, micro animation, dark theme, whereas Behance, it's a platform that's owned by Adobe. You can create really in-depth process flow to document your whole design thinking process. So a lot of designers would put their portfolio on Behance, but if you want to make it a lot cooler, you want to make it your own website, I recommend Webflow. So it's a very easy to use website builder where you can just drag and drop again, no code. So super easy, and it also allows you to do prototype. And when it comes to all of these things, we've talked about so much of these different ideas. How do you document all of your notes? Well, there's this latest, well, not really latest now, but it's a very hot and popular one. It's called Notion. I used to use Evernote, but now I swapped to Notion. It's just so much easier to use, and it just consolidates all of your information, and it's very pretty. That's what I like about it. What sort of tools do you use, Anubhav?
I am a Windows user. For me, XD and Figma are the tools I go to. But I take a lot of information and inspiration from various designers. There are super talented designers all over Dribbble, Behance. And Behance, in fact, was something that I've been using since last almost 8 or 9 years when Behance wasn't owned by Adobe. So it was designed by designers for designers, and then Adobe bought them later, but the quality has never gone down. Let's look at a few UX roles that people are into. So what are those UX roles? When we say UX design, there are so many things that people can become after learning a course in UX. So the first one is UX designer. So you must have all seen a lot of times that on different job portals there is opening for UX designer or UI UX designer. We'll come to that in a while, but UX designer is one of the most popular jobs that is available in Hong Kong. There's something called UX researcher. UX researcher's job is to do research and pass on the information to the next team. So there's this whole bunch of team members in the UX team. So mostly in bigger companies, what happens is these bigger companies, they break a role of a UX designer, as mentioned before, into small tasks that they do. So UX researcher would do the research, analyze the data, and pass it over to another person who would probably do the architecture. So that is the information architect. The information architect takes all the data from the user researcher and lays it down in the order of hierarchy so that people can understand that. Then from that information, the service designer creates different features and services that the users want and need, and then create a whole gamut of options that should be there.
So say, for example, when a lot of times when we see service designer, what do they actually do? Say, for example, if you go into a retail bank, a lot of the times banks actually hire service designer to make sure it's a lot more smoother for any retail client. So when you walk into the retail bank, the teller, so the person who's at the front desk, they might not be there anymore because they're now trying to change it to make it a lot more seamless and smoother. They might digitalize it. You might be speaking to a screen right now because they're trying to cut costs as always. But it's always about service design when it comes to banks, I feel like.
Yes. So all the bigger companies, they usually take all these roles, divide them into small tasks, and then they have that as a role that they hire for. Experience designer is pretty interesting. So experience designer is the one who designs the experience in an architectural environment. So, for example,
What's a
inside
good
museum,
example? Museums. Oh, that's true.
museums. So when a person goes inside the museum, what do? How do they interact with the object? Because the object, you can't touch them. There's only the way you can read them. So how do you make it more interactive?
They just put a guy there to make sure you don't talk, I feel like. Or library. Library.
Yeah.
They just make sure they have some guy who's like super serious and everyone's quiet.
Do you have some example of where experienced designers work?
I would say, well, I really like Disneyland myself. Whenever I go to Disneyland, I always feel like I'm on a different planet. And the coolest thing about Disneyland, what I think is that every single Disneyland, although culturally they're different, people, they're speaking a different language, but they've always got that same castle. And everyone's always smiling, and I feel like I'm 10 years old. I love Disneyland.
And the product designer. This is the most interesting one for me because this person is someone like a Rambo who has to do every single thing from the very beginning.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're a product designer, you're probably going to do every single thing that we've spoken about till now.
But you were saying, like, a lot of the jobs that I'm looking up on, JobsDB, it always says Hong Kong are hiring UX/UI designer. What does that actually mean? Like, why isn't it here? I thought that's the most common one.
Yes. So it's a very interesting topic to talk about because for me personally, UI design is an extension of a graphic designer on a digital platform. So for UI, the eye for detailing that you look at is very different from a user researcher's or a user designer's role. Hong Kong, it's fairly new. This whole term of UX is new. So it takes a little bit of time for them to understand the difference. But for now, that comes as a whole package where they want people who know UI as well as UX. But there are slowly people getting to understand the difference and they're incorporating in the company.
That's why you gotta have good communication skills. You gotta know how to communicate your design. And I guess in Hong Kong, since it's such a new industry, you just gotta know everything.
Yeah, correct. So, comes to the question, how do you apply UX to your company? The biggest thing that is required, that is something that we've been speaking about all this while, was the awareness of a user. You need to understand the user through research, through empathy. You have to define who your user is. It cannot be everyone. It has to be someone that you're focusing on, and you design your product for that person and keep iterating, keep testing things out. Going back, there's no harm in going back and redesigning things. But once your good product is out in the market and people use it, it's validated by them, your product is bound to have success and it is going to impact your business. But your thing doesn't stop there because you need to always go back and retest it because the mindset of people change. It's the human psychology. Is the society. Everything changes. So you need to adapt and modify.
And then say, what are some of the ways that you apply UX, say on your day-to-day or your previous jobs?
The process always remains same. It is something like the rule written in the book. You do your research, you analyze the data, you put it in the form that people understand. You need to, when people understand the data, you need to put that in a visual format with a tangible format, say something like an industrial design product, a digital product, or something like an experienced designer's work where you have a prototype ready, test them out, see everything works, and then put it out in the market again. But there's another thing. So UX not only goes for the customers, you also apply UX within your own organization.
And how do you do that?
It's very interesting that you asked me that. So UX in your organization would mean every single stakeholder that we've been talking about, every single role that you have in the company, their job, how can their job be easier, their job be interesting, and they find value in the job that they do? How do you make them more efficient in their work? Because time is money. If they're more efficient, they would save more time. Making lives easier is a key. But the process of doing that also remains same, because within your company, your own employee is also a user of your product or your services that you provide as a CEO or the owner of the company.
That's true. So we've talked about all the different things about UX. You might be wondering, where else can I learn even more? So it really depends how in-depth you want to learn, how much time you want to spend, depending on your circumstances. So there are obviously a lot of online courses out there and different universities, colleges who are offering UX design. They might also call it human-centered design or human in computer interaction design. They've got all these different fancy names, a lot of different online courses, which you can easily search up on Google, paid or non-paid, free ones. And also there are different books that you can read, which I'm going to share with you, 2 of my favorite in a bit, and a lot of different blogs out there, which again are free materials. And of course, there is Xccelerate. So obviously we are a place where we enable other people to learn skills within tech. And we've got our next cohort starting for full-time UX. When is that, Annabelle?
It's starting in September.
And then how long is the course for?
It's a 16-week course. It's a full-time course where people come early in the morning at 9 o'clock and they work till 6. They work on hands-on live projects from the companies. It'll be great if I see you there.
And then we will be getting you ready from zero to job ready. So be it you've never learned UX, we're going to get you ready for it. But what about, well, I don't want to take full time, like I don't want to take time off. I've got to get paid. Don't worry, we've also got part-time courses for people out there who still want to make sure you've got your full-time job. It's going to be very exhausting as well. It's going to run weekday on the evenings, but still, we've got different options for you guys to choose from. And to share with you 2 of my favorite books. The one on the left is The Design of Everyday Things. It's written by Dawn Norman. Again, the founding member of the NN Group. It's a really great UX consulting research company. This book really looks into designs, how it serves as a communication between objects and users. Even though this book is published in 1988, Jesus Christ, I wasn't even born yet. But still, it's one of the most popular books in the UX field. And the second one, it's Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. This is more about website design, usability design. So remember earlier we showed different website designs, Google versus this one, which is just screaming out everything. This book really looks into the different principles of what it takes to make a good website. That's why the name Don't Make Me Think, because if you're making your user to think for too long, they're just going to quit. That's what I do. Some of the apps, you know how there's too many clicks, especially with onboarding. I just click close, read terms and conditions. I don't care.
Do you guys have any questions? If you do, why don't you write to us in the chat below? You can also follow us on our pages mentioned on the right. Let us know. Let's see.
And thanks for filling up the form earlier today. It's on your email if you don't know what I'm talking about. But let's see. So we've got one question, which is, I would like to know how the target user's age affects UX decisions.
So when the UX decisions are made, it's after you know the target user's age and the age group. So ideally, it won't come after. It won't come as a surprise, saying that but my target user is this age. But then because you're designing for that age from the very beginning. In an ideal world, the business starts before, or the business decisions or the design of the business is made before you, after you have the user experience person in. So you know exactly what you're doing, how you're doing. But since this is not an ideal world and there are businesses which are already running, so you need to go back to the drawing board, understand what the user wants, and then redesign your stuff to get the things relevant to that age group.
Okay. And what about, I've heard of this thing called persona. Well, obviously I'm a UX designer. I know what persona is. But What about how do you put different target users group age in what they call a persona and different demographics? How does that affect the decisions?
So persona is a person who doesn't exist, but it is basically your the different things an individual can think of, or the person does, or what their lifestyle is. It's a description of that with on an imaginary person. So you create that in multiple forms, multiple criteria of where your business is targeting towards, and then you create everything around that person. So, for example, if my target customer if I'm designing toys for babies, my baby is 3-year-old, and I design things around that baby. What would the baby need? If I'm designing toys which are for 15-year-olds, it will be based on that. What does that person need? So the 15-year-old won't play with the toys for 3-year-olds. So vice versa.
That's true. Very interesting. Thank you. So we've got some questions from our live stream. From King C. Wong. How do you keep up with the latest trend of UX? What do you do, Annabelle?
So normally I go to different websites. There are a lot of websites. I follow a lot of Instagram posts. People talk about so many things that goes in and out in trend. Once you've started doing that, you get an idea of what was the major trend. Also, you obviously observe different websites, different apps, and see the common trend. A very good example that I can tell you of is, you remember when Apple first launched, all the icons, everything was in 3D, and suddenly it became flat. So the trend moved from having 3D icons, 3D graphics to completely flat icons.
Yeah. So for myself, again, everyone's on mobile right now. I use Behance, I use Dribble to look at what are the latest trends. There are a lot of people on Instagram as well. It depends on your type of learning style, depending on what's the best way. I would also say maybe joining some meetup groups or some different design communities in Hong Kong so you can learn from other people as well. And we've got a question from Tony Lam. How much coding skills should I know? So coding, I would say it really depends. It would be great if you know coding, because a lot of the times when it comes to designing, you need to communicate your designs with your developers. So it'll be easier to understand what are the challenges they might face and whether the design that you come up with, is it actually realistic?
Yeah. And also it depends on what kind of role do you want to pursue. So if you're looking for a role specifically in UX research or an information architect, you actually don't need coding that much. If you're looking for a role in like an experience designer, where you have to create an IoT or human-centered design, there you might need something like C++, but in a very generic level, not a very high-end level. But if you're working for a product designer, you might need to know a little bit of HTML, CSS, and very slight JavaScript, not because you have to sit and code for them, but because you'll be working with developers, and they would want to have something which is doable. You cannot make just anything for the developers and then ask them to do it.
Yeah, but it would be good to learn coding as well.
Yes.
Definitely a useful skill set. We've got a question from Stephanie Mack. How did you land your first job into the UX field, given that you're not that experienced in the first place? Very good question. Everyone has that question.
Yes.
Even I did.
So what I did was my aim was to be prepared. So before I landed or even started looking for a job, before even I created my profile on LinkedIn, I made sure that I have a portfolio. The portfolio didn't mean that I had worked for industries or companies before. It actually meant that I have relevant works which I did by myself with my whatever interest or things that I felt needed, I can do better. I do it and show it that yes, I can do it. And also companies like that much of confidence that you say you redesign the Facebook's page.
Yeah. What I would say is that you definitely need to make sure you're passionate about going into this field, because if you're changing from a completely different industry, that's very challenging. But a lot of times we see graphic designer, UI designers moving into UX. So it could be something that you already learning within the job. So I would say if your current company gives you the opportunity to be more on the product side, definitely get more experience on that. If you've got absolutely no experience, you just have to learn it, be it go through a boot camp, or going to school for a degree. And I think really most importantly, like you mentioned, you have to have a portfolio, because people who are going to hire you would want to know what you can bring to the table. And if you got like, well, I don't know what portfolio I can put up, like you mentioned, if you want to change up designs like Spotify, you don't like several things, come up with something that how you can change it and put it up, promote it for yourself, like put it on LinkedIn, send it to people on LinkedIn, and just share and make sure other people get it as well.
Yeah.
And a question from Kay Ho, do you have trial class?
I think we will be doing some trial classes in a few days. We'll let you know. We'll keep you updated.
So yes, we have trial classes. Just follow us so you will know when the next trial class will be. We actually have a full day workshop that's coming up as well. So it's next Saturday. It's at Causeway Bay. If you scan the barcode there, you would get all the details.
Register. I'll be there. I'll be conducting the full day workshop. I have something very interesting planned where you sit and design your own first product.
Yeah. And then we've got a question from Krista Lam. What specific UX skills can a digital BA learn, which is rather easy but have great values?
Interesting questions. So a BA is already almost there because you're analyzing the data. BA, I'm guessing it's business analyst.
Yeah.
So you're anyway handling all the data. Those data, if you can look at it from a user perspective, putting empathy into those data, trying to understand what user actually needs, instead of figuring out how you can make money, you create your service, then add the business value to it. So that is how you create a product which will do better.
Okay, and next we've got from Sunny Kong JL. The Xccelerate program seems fast-paced. Is it really sufficient enough to start a UX career?
So it again depends. So if you are doing the part-time course is enabling you to become a little better in what you do. If you're already as a UI designer, it'll help you accelerate towards a UX profession. If you take the full-time course, it is actually for people who are not from the UI, or they may be from UI, but it is from people who are completely different and they want to change their job and they want to become a UX designer, because that course will take them from a complete zero to, as we said, job ready.
And a question from Mark Pun. Who would you say is/are the leading UX thinkers? Who are you following?
Oh, there are many. I follow Don Norman. Don Norman is the father of interaction design, the UX that we know of, that we've been speaking of all this while. He's the one who actually put that on paper, saying that UX is something that exists in the world and people need. And otherwise, there are all these YouTube channels, there are Instagram links. So as soon as people post in videos, I go and just look at them.
For me, I would say that's a very good question. Obviously, Don Norman and like Jacob Nielsen, who are the founders of the research group, they're definitely leading thinkers, but the trend kept changing, right? So how I would approach this is sometimes when I download the next coolest app that I really, really enjoy, I look at who are the brains behind it. So I don't have one right now, but I always see what apps I'm using, which apps that I really like the user experience that really don't make me think at all. And I will look behind the company and the projects that they work on and kind of go down to this whole thing to research and see who are the ones that are cool. Let us know if you have your favorite UX thinker as well. And from Marilyn Teo, how quickly would one find a job after a bootcamp? Would people hire someone without experience? And would you recommend internship or a full-time job?
So bootcamp, you'll be working on projects. You'll be working on live projects where you are actually doing projects which are given by the company. Once you have that, you'll be working on building your portfolio. You have your portfolio, you have your CV, you have your LinkedIn profile up. You can go and get a job, like apply for a job immediately. And I think within a month, you probably should land a job, because it takes about a month for you to clear all the rounds of interviews and then get the offer letter.
I would say it really depends on how dedicated you are when it comes to job hunting, right? You can just like, oh, that's my portfolio. I put it up somewhere while just waiting. That's not going to happen. You really got to hustle if you got no experience. So just shoot out LinkedIn emails. Just really find out your connections. Who knows someone who works at a startup that might need a UX designer? Where are all the UX jobs out there? Attend events. Go to talent nights or like any job hunting events. So it really depends how passionate you are. Would someone hire someone without experience? Yes, there will be. But again, you got to sell yourself. A lot of the times when you see job posting out there, they say at least 1 year, 1 to 3 years. But again, they obviously want someone with experience. So it depends how you approach it. I'm sure there are people who hired people without experience. Someone hired me when I've got no experience, but you just got to know how to sell yourself. And would you recommend internship or full-time job? Internship is a great way to get started with your career if you cannot find a full-time job, but obviously pay is different. So it really depends, again, what you're looking for. Are you ready to just spend, your career in UX? Then yes, go find your full-time job, and it's definitely better job security as well.
Yeah, I also think that if you already have some experience, you can just directly go for a job. If you have absolutely no experience in working in a company, internship is good because it gives you an idea about how the industries work.
Yeah. And then a question from Alan Chu. May I know the UX tools which are really free? Of course, we as Hong Kongers, where are the free things? I'm not going to pay for stuff. So earlier, I think in the chat room, we also mentioned, so Figma is for free. Adobe XD is for free. Behance and Dribble is for free to create an account. If you want additional features, you have to pay for it. Webflow is not for free. I think you can trial it. You can just create stuff, but if you want to publish it, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, I think Webflow, there's something similar called Wix.
It's not for free. I don't think.
Yeah, it's not free, but then the free part of it, you cannot customize your domain name. Mm-hmm. It'll have something wix.com/something, which doesn't look that cool. So it's better to just get the paid version.
Yeah, and mentioned earlier, Notion is also for free. That's a note-taking tool. And then from Maryland again, I see a lot of jobs posting require CSS3 and HTML knowledge. Is it necessary?
So it's not necessary per se, but so a couple of times it happened during my interviews with companies where they ask, oh, do you know how to code? So before I would say, oh no, I don't know how to code, they would still be okay with it because they don't expect me to code, because a mindset of a designer and a mindset of a developer is very different. They don't expect me. If you tell them upfront that no, you don't know how to code, it's fine. It's absolutely okay. It's just a skill which is good to know. I learned how to code. It didn't make any difference. It was just the same for me. They asked me, do you know how to code? I said, yeah, a little bit. They said, oh, okay, good. That's about it.
Yeah, I would say if the job said absolutely necessary, and you can really see what other job details they have. If they really need someone who needs to code, you better learn a bit of coding. You can't just pretend that you know when the job really requires you to do that. So it's always good. But if you don't know UX yet and you want to get into UX, learn UX first, and then coding will follow. Yeah. And you will realize there's this one day you just need to learn coding because you just cannot communicate with the developers.
Yeah.
And from King C. Wong, before you guys become a UX UI designer, what did you do? What did you do?
So I used to work as a product designer and industrial designer. I used to design watches. I've done a lot of watch designs in my life. I've designed bags, I've designed footwear, I've designed bags and belts. But I was always into design, but not UX design. I have about 12 years of work experience now. 12 years ago, UX design didn't exist. There was something called web design, which was UI UX that we call today.
So as for me, before I became a UX UI designer, like most people in Hong Kong, I was in finance, amazing job. And then I moved to London. I was at a tech company, and that really allows me to learn so much more about the product side of things. So that's what I did. And then I took a course and then became a UX designer. And from Sally Sang, where do you see UX growing in Hong Kong compared to Japan, UK, and USA?
I think UX will grow into breaking up in different parts where people are dedicated, specifically taking care of their role and be really good at it. Where do you think it'll go towards?
I would say, obviously, US is the most established, most advanced. It has been in the industry for so long. That's why, I mean, I'm an Apple person. Like, that's why Apple is so great when it comes to UX design and everything. UK is pretty leading as well, I'd say, in terms of Europe. Japan, it's more a lot of product design, I would say, like actual products. It's a very different market compared to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is still mainly financial services driven. You see a lot of lawyers. Hong Kong, it's still a bit behind when it comes to the time lag, but we will be picking up. So if you do kind of just go on JobsDB to see what jobs what jobs are hiring for UX designers, you see a lot of financial services. You see a lot of banks hiring for them. You see a lot of insurance. So then these are the biggest industry within the market. So they would probably be the ones that have the capital to hire this sort of talents because they realize that product, it is very important. That's how it gets more users to use it.
Well, I'll tell you a cool thing about Hong Kong being a little slow in UX is if you do UX now, by the time Hong Kong picks up with UX and then suddenly there's everyone wanting to do UX, you'll already be a senior in the company.
That's true.
So yeah, it's a good time.
Well, now we are still, if we're getting on a roller coaster ride, I think we're here. The roller coaster ride is just going to keep going up, but we're probably here. So by the time Hong Kong really picks it up, and if you're already taken the course, you're already 5 steps ahead of everyone. Yes. So it's never too late. A question from Janice Lee, another Janice. Hi there. May I know how a day would be like for a full-time UX bootcamp? Is it half lecture, half hands-on experience?
It is exactly how you predicted it to be. The first half will be lecture. The second half will be some assignments that I'll give. And then we discuss that in the class. It'll be very interactive. It will be fun. So for my aim is to make the whole class fun. Because as we said, it's more visual. People understand visual. If it is not visual, if the class is not fun, then I'm probably doing something wrong. I'm doing wrong UX with my students.
That's true. So yeah, a bit of lecture and then definitely hands-on experience. It depends on, what type of learner you are. A lot of people are just learn by doing. So this is the best way to learn. And then because it's not like a 1-year full-on program, it's a lot more about the practical. So really getting yourself ready for your job in the future.
Yeah, and we are also getting a lot of companies. So after the second module gets over, you'll be working with all these company projects, interacting directly with clients. So I'll be overseeing all these projects, but you'll be choosing your own project that you want to work on and then create a design which the clients want. So that is a very cool experience, which I didn't have. Yeah.
That's cool. So you guys will get to have that. And then a question from, apologies if I pronounce it incorrectly, Ika Andriana. What are the skills we should learn in our free time before we start any UX UI course to make the bootcamps seem familiar?
Just be open to communicate with people and understand people and empathize with people. Don't keep yourself restricted to your own surroundings and not moving out. It's good to talk. It's good to be social. That is what I'll say. That is something that will help you in any bootcamp that you take. So do that. Read about UX in general. Be familiar with the term UX. Go to YouTube. Go to different Instagram posts. See what people are talking about. It's just familiarize yourself.
As for me, my recommendation is that if you've always been working, you have not been in a very intensive learning environment, you got to start learning again. Because if we don't train our brain up to learn new things, you get back to your day-to-day just working. And it's a very intensive course. You got to train your brain to be in that mode again. So maybe start learning something new. to just train your brain for learning new skills again. And then when it comes to the actual skills, I would say go on Google a bunch of, there's so many free resources out there, and really see whether UX is your thing, because maybe after we've explained this, you still might not understand what UX really means or whether it's really right for you. So I'd say really look into it and see what the job opportunities are out there. Are these things that you actually want to pursue? And just maybe, for example, I would say pick a product that you just struggle with and see whether you can understand, go through that design process that we talked about earlier. How do you empathize? How do you define the problem? How do you keep iterating this process? How do you make sure a product is kind of changing and becoming better and better?
You can read this one. We are running short of time.
Oh, okay. From Kingsley Wong, are you the tutors of the bootcamp?
Yes.
Yes, so you must be excited about this. We are the tutors. Yeah. And then we also got a question from our the pool design. It's in Chinese. So I'm going to say it in Chinese first and translate it into English. It says, 香港大部分公司對 UX design 呢個專業有多少程度嘅認識？而喺香港成為 UX designer 發展嘅前景會係點樣樣？因為 UX 呢個專業咧已經喺外國發展咧嘅程度已經好進化㗎啦。咁 UX 會否喺未來只係各種 designer 嘅一種 soft skills， 而唔係依家嘅一項職業？I'm going to try to translate this in English. So it's this question is, so most of the companies in Hong Kong have limited understanding of what UX design is. And this person is wondering how it's like to become a UX designer in Hong Kong, especially in overseas. It's already very well developed and very well established. It's UX a soft skills that designers would require, like it will become an actual occupation.
So
do you understand my translation?
Yes, I kind of do. Just correct me if I'm wrong. But so there are a lot of companies who don't understand. There are a lot of companies which understand, but then you won't be able to understand till you actually are inside the company. Just in case you're in one of those companies and you come across a situation like that, the only thing that can help you out is communicating it and showing do it with actions that this is what user experience can get you to. And because if you just talk and there is nothing, the companies won't believe you. So is there a second part to the question?
No, I think that's it. But I would say how I would interpret it. Obviously, Hong Kong, again, it's quite lagged behind. Someone else, asked earlier, how are we like compared to the rest of the world? Asia is still picking up when it comes to UX design, but Hong Kong will definitely pick it up, and in general, Asia as well. And because UX is part of tech, and I'm sure you've heard, there's health tech, there's ed tech, there's, all things. There is a tech for all different sort of industries. So there will be a need for UX designers. And whether UX is just a soft skills, I wouldn't say so, because UX is a soft skill in terms of how you communicate your designs, how you interpret it, but there will be more jobs for UX designers. And it will be a profession that is needed in Hong Kong and for the rest of the world.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes. We can probably take one more question.
Okay. We've got one. How to apply psychology and mental model in UX career? Very good question. I love that.
So, as I said before, UX is psychology in a way which you apply to a business. So once you start understanding your user, having a background in psychology will help you understand your users better. Trying to get things out of the user is a skill which people from the psychology background understand even better. So they can design the tools to get those information out in a better way, and getting those information and then using the rest of the skills, which are the analytical skills, to put things together, and then using the rest of the skills to present it to the team. But that is how it is used. The mental model is something which is also used in UX. It's called the mind map, where you use your customer in the center and then trying to understand what that person's mind is and what the person requires. Let's quickly get to the last question.
The last question we've got is, what kind of UX skills can business analysts to learn as a quick win?
As a business analyst, you already are there. You already are analyzing things. You already have the data with you. Think of it from not money-making way, but understanding people and getting things into the picture to get a better product in the market. That is what is going to get you a quick win.
Yeah, I would say BAs, you definitely have very strong analytical skills. So perhaps UX researcher and things like that would be a lot more relevant for you. But yeah, you've definitely got the analytical skills and the brains for it. And then thank you so much, guys, for joining our webinar.
And there's a full-time event coming up, full-time workshop next Saturday. See you guys there. Sign up, scan the code, sign up. I'll be there.
Hope to see you there. Bye. Bye.